What if the goals you're chasing right now aren't even yours? What if they were planted there by social media, by comparison, maybe by insecurity, and you never stop to ask yourself, do I really even want this, and why? That's what I call subconsciously adopted goals. And they're dangerous because they can steal your time, steal your money, steal your energy, and worst of all, can steal your life. Subconsciously adopted goals are basically milestones or achievements that we fix our heart's devotion and attention on without actually stopping long enough to think them through. We get caught in the grind of life and chasing after something that we aren't even sure if we actually truly chose this for ourselves. And the cost can be high. The cost can be the things that actually matter the most in our lives. Our health, our relationships, our joy, all of these things can end up paying the highest price. And as we know, especially from middle age, life is pretty short. And so wasting it on goals that don't really belong to us, this can only lead us to one brutal outcome. That outcome is regret. When we talk about subconsciously adopted goals, we're identifying this truth that we can actually pick up things that belong to other people just by association. We hear someone else talk about something they're aiming for, and those words and that thought and the feeling of possessing that milestone gets in our soul. It's like a tasty piece of sugar or a treat that we love eating. We get a little taste for it and we suddenly think, oh, I want more of that. But it can get inside of us and be buried deep with roots going down and green shoots of activity sprouting up before we even get the chance to ask ourselves, did I really want this? Is this really important to me? Or have I just allowed something to drift into my attention because of something I saw on a screen or something I heard a friend say? And so we've got to pose the question, where do these false goals actually come from? And I want to identify a few of them for you today so that you can actually check your own life, so that you can actually process, what goals do I have inside that I'm chasing hard after? What milestones am I telling myself really matter? But actually be brave enough to explore, do I really even want that? Let's go through a few items. Number one, our false goals can come from external influences. And really here, we're talking about some of the obvious things. We're talking about social media, for example. You know, I'm old enough to remember growing up in a time in life where we couldn't see everybody's life on the planet. You basically knew the few friends you had in your street, you knew where your extended family lived, and you heard a few bits and pieces on the news report each evening. But you didn't have this screen in your hand all the time that was constantly feeding you a highlight reel of all these random people's lives all over the world. And so social media presents things to us that gets us to contemplate, oh, maybe I want that too. What about our culture? Without a doubt, our culture, with all of its technological advance, with all of its living standards being advanced and prosperity and the openness of business opportunities, our culture has become more hedonistic than at any other time in history. People want stuff like crazy. More stuff, and then get more stuff, and then the goal after that is get more stuff. I wonder how much of the culture around you have you actually picked up without actually paying attention? Maybe you could drop it in the comments below and tell me and say, Andrew, you're right. I think I have picked up a few things that are probably not even true to who I am. Maybe you could get specific and identify. What are some things that you used to chase after, but you realized, I don't need that. It actually just came from this greedy, ravenous culture that we live in. Here's another one, friends. Sometimes we watch what our friends have got and what they're aiming for, what they're going after, and their goals can kind of drift into our soul. And before we know it, we're identifying things that we call our own goals, but we actually adopted them subconsciously. For some of you, a difficult external influence can be family expectations. Maybe you grew up in a family that told you through direct language and indirect role modeling that status was very important. And so you've been trained and you've been taught that if you don't have the right status, then you don't have worth as a person. And so you find yourself chasing all of these status markers to prove that you are a certain someone. But what if all of those goals are just subconsciously adopted? What if, worse than that, they're actually doing you damage on the inside? Here's a second factor that we've got to pay attention to when we talk about false goals and where they come from. And this is a big one: insecurity. I see this everywhere, all the time, every day, where people, young and old, men and women, all kinds of backgrounds, all kinds of educational levels, people who are struggling in their self-worth, struggling to believe that they are an important, lovable person just because of who they are. And so they start trying to add external buffering through purchases and clothing and cars and resumes and all of these external things to try to patch up and to patch over how they feel about themselves. It's doing so many people so much damage because they simply believe that if they buy that next thing or achieve that next thing or reach that milestone that they saw from somebody else, it will make the insecure feelings on the inside go away. Sadly, not only does it not make them go away, it actually compounds them and makes them worse. Because the only real way to deal with insecurity is to do the deep inner work in our soul, not to chase external things that come through purchasing power. Let me give you a third one. Partly this is to do with the speed of life, and it's to do with the fact that people don't have the tools and the training that they need, and that is a lack of reflection. Lack of reflection. People don't stop long enough to explore, why do I do what I do? Why am I chasing the things I'm chasing? We don't slow down long enough to ask, is this goal truly my goal? Is this result really something that I want, and why do I want it? And because of that, we end up pouring the best of our energy into somebody else's dream. And then we wake up one day wondering why we feel so empty. And it's because we haven't taken the time to stop and reflect and choose for ourselves. Okay, what can we do practically to protect ourselves from this danger of subconsciously adopted goals? Well, there's a few things that we can do. The first one is we can require a defense from our goals. Require a defense from our goals. So when we think about the goals that we do have, we should actually challenge them and ask the question, why do you deserve a place in my heart? Why do you have a place in my life? Why are you there? How did you get there? If they can't stand up to the question with a really clear, really quick, and significant enough why, then maybe they don't actually belong on the inside. We need to challenge our existing goals. There's nothing to be afraid of in this, because if it is a goal worthy of having, it'll stand up to the questioning. But if it can't stand up to the interrogation, maybe it doesn't truly belong to you. Number two thing we can do is to test our motives. Now, I've got to say, this is only for the really courageous students watching. Most people don't take the time, don't go long enough in their reflection to actually ask mature, powerful questions like, why do I want this? Is this a passion or just a pleasure? Is this something I really care about because it's aligned with my true desires? Or is this something that is just buffering that insecurity? Is this just an ego trip? If we actually took the time with courage to test our motives, we would do well in sifting the goals that we don't need to carry, which are dangerous because they send us down the wrong path, wasting our time, wasting our resources, and we could find out, no, maybe this is something I really care about, something that's really aligned with who I am and the values that I care about. Let me give you a third one. The third one is pursue growth. Now, I'm talking here about growth as a person, not just growth in your bank account, not just growth in the items that live in your house, but pursue growth as a person. Learn to love adventure, learn how to bless your family, but make sure that your pursuits actually belong to you as you understand life is a journey for enjoying. It's not just a journey for stockpiling. We might find that if we apply ourselves to these practical, actionable steps, we will get super clear, sifting out the goals that aren't actually ours and only retaining those things that actually really matter. The truth about this whole subject is that this kind of clarity is exactly what I walk people through in my course that I call the True Self-Transformation Program. Now, if you're tired of chasing other people's goals and you're ready to uncover the ones that actually will bring you peace, joy, and purpose, then this course could be perfect for you. There's a link in the description below, and you can check out the details about that. And I promise you, I will hold your hand in that process, and I will get you an incredible transformation in your life. I want you to drop in the comments before you leave, what's one goal for you that perhaps you need to stop? Or at least, what's one goal that you should challenge and question in your life right now? Maybe because you've realized it actually doesn't stand up very well to the questioning, so perhaps you collected it from somewhere else earlier in your experience. Why don't you drop that in the comments below? If you want to get really practical with this session today, why don't you try this exercise? Very practical. Get a pen and some paper or get your phone and write down what you believe are your top 3 goals in life right now. Just 1, 2, 3, put them on the page. And for each one, ask the question, why do I want this? You see, every useful what needs to be followed by a helpful why. Write down the goal, ask the question, why do I want this? Put your answer there, and then actually take the time to circle any of those goals that feel like they could actually be grounded in insecurity or comparison or somebody else's expectation. Who knows? You might actually find that 1 or 2 of your goals that you've identified don't actually need to belong in your life. And if you discover that, that's not a discouragement, that's actually a gift. Because in going through this process, what you've actually just done is you've reclaimed time, you've reclaimed energy, and you've reclaimed focus. So, in conclusion, absolutely, have goals, pursue growth, celebrate achievement, live boldly, don't waste your life, but do it in a way where you don't chase the subconsciously adopted goals that were never truly yours. Remember, the price of chasing the wrong thing is not just wasted time, it's regret. So choose wisely, live intentionally, and give your best to what truly matters. If you've enjoyed today's episode, I'd love you to subscribe to the channel if you haven't already, and I'll see you in another video real soon.